Oh, you're very quiet. I can barely hear you. Sorry.
Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, a podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham. I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show. I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother. I was Cornel and Watch My Chops. I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you all know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed. Our guest today is Lizzie Waterworth. She's the voice of Horrid Henry. I'm sure most of you will have heard at some point or another. She's BAFTA nominated and she's now an author. So we're very pleased to have her in the studio.
Hello, it's great to be here.
So we're going to start, I think, at the beginning, really. When you're given a script, going about creating a character, what's the starting point for you?
That's a good question. So the first thing I'll do is read the words describing the character, the key words, and I'll literally circle them. So if it's a boy, is he cute, mischievous, funny, those kind of things. And then I'll begin to paint a little picture in my head. And if there's no photo of him there, I literally create an image in my head of this boy. So does he have glasses? Like I create a whole, as if he's a real person. And then I tap into, okay, if he's cute and he's quite small, then maybe I'll give him a slightly shyer voice. And all these things just start popping in my head until I find the voice. But I have him in my head, and then I'll explore with the voice, and then maybe so I'll put my voice lower to make him older, but then maybe he's too old and maybe he needs to be a bit shyer and a bit younger, and then he gets softer, and that's how I play with it in my head. I'm sure you're the same, and then I finally found him, and once I've got the voice, it's there.
What about accents? Are you given a steer on that, or do you...
So that varies as well. So sometimes I'll want a regional accent. So, again, if it's a little girl, so I might explore and make her northern and give her a northern twang. And then that, and even you can hear in that, she sort of sounds like she's a little bit out there maybe, a bit quirky.
Right.
Just from that accent. Yeah. Or that might be completely wrong, and maybe she needs to be more serious. And then then Scottish pops up. Not necessarily because Scottish people are more serious, but maybe give a sort of a more earnest tone, and that would be quite soft and quite gentle, but you can hear there's a real earnestness there. That. So just playing with accents can change how the character sounds so much. Yes. It's amazing how an accent and tiny things you do with your voice can make it.
One of my starting points has always been, I'm afraid, impressions. So you start off with...
Oh, is that what you start with?
Impression of somebody you've heard, either famous or not famous.
Okay,
because Cornel and Bernie, I remember we did that years ago, and the dog, it was a talking dog, an intelligent talking dog. What do you do with that?
I love how seriously you say that.
Well, it's true, and Ben Small was the other guy in it, and he was already there because he could do it was an American accent for the boy, and you knew exactly what he was going to be before you even picked the script up. Yeah. But the talking dog... And we went through all kinds of combinations. Being very posh, this kind of thing, very, very like that. But that's far too. That's Brian Sewell, you see.
Yeah.
That's far too patronising. And then we ended up with Alan Bennett, and we started doing that kind of voice.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was done in a sort of northern Alan Bennett-esque voice, and it worked. And you can, with that kind of thing, you can lilt it and move it around and.
Yeah, and it's so much fun when you find a voice that you
just
feel like
it.
you've just got it, and then it's there. Yeah, but it takes a while. I think sometimes there's a misconception that you just produce the voice in your head immediately.
Yeah.
But it does take time, and then you change it over time.
Yes.
And, even before an audition, you think you're there ready. You've got your accent sorted or whatever, and then by the time you get in there, actually... oh no, I'm thinking maybe make her older, and that will change this. And so there's a whole process that goes on just internally that I don't even think we're aware of sometimes.
The accent thing is also interesting because my theory about that, you may blow this out of the water, but did you move around a lot as a child? Did you have a stable, single place upbringing?
No, I was stable, single. Yeah. Did you move around?
I moved around,
Okay.
and if you ask impressionists and mimics, a lot of them were in army families or showbiz families, and they moved around a lot, so they never settled on an accent when they were younger.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I did find if I went on holiday and I'd come back, say from Northern Ireland,
you pick it up.
Be speaking it.
Yes.
And apparently that's to do with being slightly a people pleaser, where
you have to
try
fit
and
in.
fit in or be liked or whatever. I don't know all the
Yes.
ins and outs of it, but maybe there was an element, and then I just naturally start speaking.
One of the things that's changed, really changed over the years, is the accents you're allowed to do now. Because even when I started, which is in the mid-90s, you could do anything pretty much and get away with anything. But now if they want Asian, Chinese, whatever, you have to get ethnicity right.
Yeah.
We can do European-based accents. We can do Scottish, Irish, Russian. We can do all of those kind of anything that's white European.
Yeah.
But anything else
Yeah.
is no longer
Yeah.
our territory.
Yeah.
Even if you can do it perfectly.
Yeah.
I was told this once by an Indian guy at a wedding I was at, having a chat and tell him what I did for a living, and their kids loved all that. And they asked me to do an Indian accent, and I said, well, I can, but I won't.
Yeah.
And the guy said this very good phrase. I always remember this. He said, "There's always one joke on the table and another joke off the table when you do an accent like that.
Yeah.
That you can do it."
Yeah.
And somehow underlying that, underneath it, however well-meaning you are, however good it is, you're making fun of it.
Yes.
And it's not making fun of it.
Yeah.
But you just can't do it. It's like a...
I'd feel very uncomfortable being asked to do
completely.
an Indian accent, especially if there were Indian people in the studio.
Yes.
I mean, I steer.
The only way you would ever do that, I think, is in a comedy situation where it's meant to be funny, where you're meant to be doing something like that, and they are equally doing posh English or whatever they're doing back. Because I can't see a world where I could ever be asked to do anything like that, ever.
No. Or maybe back in the day you'd be asked.
Oh,
like
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, you could.
But when has that shift happened then? Do you think that's
within my lifetime? I mean, well within the last maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I remember doing a commercial for Noddy.
Oh, yes.
And they wanted a nice little, chirpy boy, oh, okay, catch my Noddy specials on it, on whatever it was. And then at the end of the session, though we had a few minutes left over, and she said, "Can you do a 30-year-old man?" No. it's just no. I can scratch myself, but no. You're going to need to get someone else in for that.
The other skill, which I imagine you have naturally, and me, is reading off a page.
Yeah.
Because the one thing a lot of people say about voice acting is it's just silly voices. But if you can't read off a page, straight off a page, it's almost impossible to do this job, I think. Because you don't get rehearsals, so you can do that. Presumably, that's a thing you can.
It's just a natural way of I think so. I remember that Barnaby. Do you know Barnaby Edwards? He was a Dalek. He's an amazing voice director, and he does lots of Audible. And I remember him once saying that when he gets an audition, he doesn't see it as an audition. He sees it just as reading.
Yes.
So just read it. Don't perform it. Just read it. I remember thinking that's so easy, but yes, you're right. It's like it's a natural. Yes, it's got to feel natural as you do it. It's like being in a character, isn't it? Some people think that voicing, you just do silly voices, but you're actually acting an actual person or a character.
Yes. Do you have an image in your head when you're doing it? Because you have to. I think you have to. You have to see it.
Yes.
And it's not seeing the character, is it? It's seeing where they are.
Yes.
And what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And whatever you are, because I've been all kinds of things. You're probably the same. We've been, brooms and ships and seagulls and whatever else you have to be. And you have to be, in your head, you have to be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I find my body changes as well. And so with Horrid Henry, I do slouch in the studio, and I do become that kind of kid who's just a bit, and your whole and I do it completely accidentally. I don't even know what's going on. Sometimes people will laugh at me, and I don't even realise what I'm gesturing or doing because I'm so focused on I am Henry for that time. I'm not trying to voice Henry. I am Henry in that studio for that amount of time. So it is acting as you would on a stage or in a film, or it's exactly the same. I don't see it any differently that you're standing there and no one can see you. Yeah.
Ask her how she got started.
So growing up, I seemed to be strangely able to pick up accents very quickly and do impressions of teachers and silly voices, and I just seemed to have this natural thing where I could just do stuff in class, and people say, "Oh, do a Newcastle accent," and I just do it, and I didn't understand why I could do it, but it just came very naturally. And then when I was 13, I watched the film Mrs. Doubtfire, and the first scene is of Robin Williams in a voice booth doing voices.
I remember that, yes.
And I remember watching that and thinking, oh my goodness, like that is an actual job.
Yeah.
Somebody does that.
Yeah.
And then my parents were like, oh, it is, but you obviously won't be doing that or something. So that was the end of that. And then I grew up carrying on, I didn't really, I thought it'd be a really fun job, but I didn't ever think I would do it. And then when I was at university reading English, actually, I was at a barbecue and I met the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine, who was Ben Small.
Oh, yes.
And I was just blown away by the fact that I'd met Thomas the Tank Engine, and he heard me messing around doing my voices.
Because I was also in Thomas and Friends, so I do know Ben.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's how you...
Yes, that's how I met. So I met Ben, and then he said immediately, I think you've got something here. I think you can do this. You've just got it. I don't know what it is, but you've got it.
And how old were you at this point?
So I think I was 21.
Okay.
I was in my second year of university.
Okay.
And
were you studying drama or
English language
okay.
and communication? So tiny similar thread, I suppose, but not performing.
Not performance.
No. And then he arranged for me to do an audition that was coming up at Tempin, which is a studio that used to be in Gloucester. And so I went in fresh-faced, didn't know what to expect. And my only reference point of a studio was that scene from Mrs. Doubtfire.
So did you do Robin Williams?
I did, in the audition?
Yeah.
Not quite, but I...
Dress up in the nanny outfit or whatever.
Hello, dear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I rock up and I'm just smiley, like, hello, don't know what I'm doing. And I see all these other actors that look far more professional. And then I went in and I literally didn't know where to stand or anything. And then I got the parts that I the lead roles in that series.
Very lucky.
It was incredible.
Yes.
But I didn't realise at the time how lucky and amazing.
Sure, you don't,
I was
do
just
you?
Like, this is,
when it's just
this is fun, and I'm going to earn some money, and I'm at university, and it's amazing. And then that cast was incredible. It had Jules DeYoung, who is just an amazing voice actor, and Tom Clark Hill. It was American, so all American accents, and Joe Ruiz, who we've worked with. Yep. And so I learnt so much on that show because they were all so seasoned, and so little things. I remember my peas, I had a problem with popping peas, and Jules was like, "Oh, just lick your lips," or there'd be these little tips that they'd kindly share. And by the end of that series, I just learnt so much about the industry, and it was just I feel so blessed to have worked with that group of people on that, because I was so new in and I didn't know what I was doing.
That was an extraordinary break.
Yeah, it really was, yeah. And I dropped my CD off. It was CDs back then.
Yes, I know. But it was tape when I started.
Oh, was it?
It was cassettes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I got a little showreel together, and then I looked up in the I think it was the Yellow Pages, agents in London. Didn't know but I just looked voiceover agents and went door to door, just dropping my, and then I got a call from one saying, come in for a chat, and then I got an agent.
It's lovely being young.
Yeah, I know.
Young
I
and
look
naive.
Back now, and I'm like, wow, that was
you'd never
gutsy.
do it, would you? You'd never do it.
No. I just thought, oh, that's nice. Somebody's, I had no clue how lucky I was really to have landed.
Well, you and I both. I mean, I started earlier than you, probably in the early mid 90s.
Yeah.
And back then it was cassettes and open reel tape. Even I was doing. I did my first reel on open reel tape.
Really.
And so people now won't ever understand what that was like at all, because it's completely different now, and everybody does anything MP3 and down the line. And
wow. But it shows how much it's changed, because that was
rapid, huge change.
I mean, I think 2002.
Yeah.
So that even in that
short
short
was the
space,
beginning. That was the start
CDs.
of digital stuff becoming huge. Yeah. But totally different now. I don't think you could do anything like we did.
No.
Just door to door salesman stuff.
No, just dropping it through. So I do workshops.
Workshops.
Yeah, with kids. especially primary school, where I'll go in and spend a day and do work with each year group and look at ways to feel more confident when they're speaking out loud. So,
and this is not to be performers necessarily.
No.
It's
just the everyday. So it's really interesting. So one of the questions I'll ask the kids is, what makes you feel anxious when you're out and about? What makes you feel like you can't get the words out, or what is it? And it's different things for different people. So for some people, doing a football tryout is just the scariest thing in the world, and then other people having to speak out loud in front of their class gives them the shakes, and then these nerves manifest themselves in different ways. And so it's trying to find practical ways to help kids to be able to feel like, I can do this, I can stand up. And so, if they're talking too fast, what can they do to slow down? Or if they're feeling really nervous, what can they do with their body to help them, look more confident, even if they don't feel it, so that they, building a connection with the audience, eye contact, that kind of stuff.
Yes. You've done that for a few years now?
Yeah, a few years. It started before COVID, and then during COVID was when I had the idea to write the book, How to Talk So People Will Listen, because I couldn't find a children's book on this anywhere. Which is, to me, is crazy.
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It really is. Like, we teach our kids, maths and reading, but speaking, we'll skip that.
That's actually surprising.
Yeah. And there's nothing in the curriculum, is it? So this is what I'm hoping. But my publisher's amazing.
Book tour, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Yes. We just go to different schools, and I got to go to America, which was fun. I love talking to kids because I think with the cartoon characters, you must find this, as soon as you're with a child, it's instantly there's that connection and that just that recognition of, you voiced my favourite character.
That's an really interesting point. I have given up saying to kids, there are a certain point they don't understand that you're a character voicing a character.
Yes.
They have no concept of that until they're maybe 7 or 8 or somewhere around there, where they can distinguish between the character on the screen and you standing there doing the voice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a weird bloke doing a stupid voice.
Especially if you're talking to strangers doing a voice.
and parents can be impressed.
Yeah.
You're in a cartoon, but the child will stare at you.
Yeah.
With no idea what you're talking about. But when they get to a certain age, like I remember seeing on Blue Peter, the bloke who did Scooby-Doo as a guest.
Yeah.
And seeing him in real life, similar to your Doubtfire moment.
Yeah.
That was lovely, seeing that. And thinking, and that sort of sparked me off thinking, like, it's a job.
Really? Is that what it was?
Kind of, yeah. It was mainly Radio 4 comedy with me, but that particular point, show isn't about you. Out of all the voices and the cartoons you've watched or whatever, is there one you particularly would have loved to have done or wanted to have done?
There's a show called Bluey, which is, I think, arguably one of the best shows ever made for kids. It's the only show in my family that we'll all sit and watch together. My son's 11, my daughter's 7, and they don't agree on anything to watch, anything apart from Bluey. But it's a
Sounds
really
Australian.
It is Australian, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's funny. It's properly funny, and I'd absolutely love to do a character in that show. Because I know Rupert Dagar. I think he's been in it.
Yes,
he's a voice actor.
I might actually get him on the show.
Yes, you should. Yeah. Get him to do his Bluey voice.
And luckily he doesn't stop talking.
So there you go. You won't have a problem then. Yeah. So Bluey, I think, would be one. Also, the Rugrats. I used to love the Rugrats. I know they brought that back. That was a really good show on Saturday mornings as well. What about you?
Probably Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
They were lucky too because they got on from the Tracy Ullman show.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they were part of the Tracy Ullman show, and they did these bumpers between the slots. Yes, he was doing, Homer Simpson. I'd love to have done that.
Yeah.
When we met, we were doing Tinpo, which was a show for CBeebies.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And that was a classic example of being thrown together, wasn't it? Because I didn't know you at the time, you didn't know me, and I didn't know the other guys at all.
Oh, didn't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
So this is another little thing about doing this job, is you just put in a room, aren't you, with people you don't know?
Yes.
Generally.
Yes.
Unless you're in a long-running show.
Yeah.
And you have to get on, and you have to do the job, and you have to be able to bounce off each other.
Yeah.
We were stuck in a tiny room. Do you remember?
It was so small.
Yeah. And you have to be able to get on.
Yeah. And be silly and laugh and just accept that you're going to mess things up. And there's no room for... there's no room for ego in there as well, because...
That's true.
It needs to be balanced, otherwise.
Yes.
Because it's such a not fragile, but it's such a special connection almost that you have for that throughout that period of when you're recording and bouncing off each other.
It doesn't. Yes, you're right.
Balanced,
I mean, you and I, but you probably work with some very, very famous people, presumably, and huge stars over the years. Because I have. You sit in a studio with people who are on the telly or in movies or whatever, and they're doing this series.
Yeah.
And it does equal. It's a leveler.
Yes.
Because it's not visual.
Yes.
They can't. Nobody can see these people, and they can see us, and they have to do the same as us, and we have to do the same as them.
Yeah.
And if they can't join in, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's been. I haven't worked with anybody that's been difficult or horrible. Have you? I mean, it's just been quite.
No, never.
No.
Which is amazing, really, isn't it? In any industry, to have never. But then I think that's partly why it works so well, because I don't know. There's an openness, isn't there, about being a voice actor, and there's a.
Yes.
You have to be up for doing anything.
Yes.
And that's where you have to lose your ego and just be willing to be silly.
Yes.
And that is a leveler.
How good are you at improvising?
I haven't had to do it much,
No.
but I can do it if needed. It wouldn't be my favourite thing to do. If someone said go on a stage and make people laugh, that wouldn't.
Yes, it was kind of within the context of doing this.
Oh, in terms of voice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we have to do it a lot, don't we? And then they'll
Yes.
say, "Oh, we need something between these two scenes. Can you
Yes.
think of a line or think of?" And I find it comes to you when you're sitting.
If you're in
there.
character,
Yes,
it'll come out.
Yeah.
Because some series we've done where you're not allowed to move around the lines at all. Some of it's really fixed, and some other series they're quite happy for you to jump about.
Yeah, which is so much fun.
It is.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
You get to do things you just wouldn't normally get to do.
No, of course not. No.
Yeah.
Can we go on to the next question, please?
Do you enjoy the fame as such, or you?
So it's funny. I don't consider myself famous.
No.
Even though
What you've done?
nearly every child in the country knows my
Yes.
voice, which is really strange because it's a really odd thing. I can walk into any school and say how many kids
Yes.
watch Horrid Henry, and nearly the whole
Yes.
school will put that. So I'm like, my voice, I suppose, is very famous, but I, as a person, am not recognisable on the street. A little bit, not at all actually. But I mean, I'm out there a bit more now because of my book, and I'm doing these various things. But essentially, it's all the voice. It's all about the voice. It always has been about the voice.
Yes.
But for me, I don't consider myself famous in any way.
Is that
it's just
you
the
wouldn't
voice.
want that?
I wouldn't crave it. No. I mean, I'm not. It's not something I don't really see a lot of benefit in being recognised, unless it's obviously it's nice to when you're promoting something like.
Yeah, I've
I've
always seen fame as a promotion in our business. I've always seen it as it's a way of getting more work rather than in and of itself being a good thing.
Yeah,
Because
you have the same. Your voice.
Thomas and Friends and the Octonauts, they're huge, but no one would know me at all.
No,
because when I started out as a performer, I did want fame in the sense that it would make me not worry about work.
Yeah,
I think that's the
the
deal.
I'm building a reputation of.
You probably don't want this either, but I don't really like the idea of being seen and recognised everywhere you go. I think it must be.
Yeah, it doesn't appeal.
It must drive you mad.
And I think that's where I struggle a bit with social media because I've embraced it now because I've recognised that.
I think you have to. You
have to, but it's not something I crave and look at how many likes I've got and how many people following.
Yeah.
I don't follow that side of it, but I need to be on it because it's just part of our job now, and I think it's essential for us.
And certainly, if you've got a book to promote,
exactly, you've got to be out there. But I do struggle a little bit with social media is a whole different thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as voice artists, I've noticed now everybody's on LinkedIn who's a voice,
yes.
More and more, and posting things that I don't think 5 years ago we would necessarily have posted.
Yes.
But are you on social media?
Very little.
Yeah.
Very little. I've never, because I grew up without it. and I haven't needed it.
Yeah.
And I find what I do see of it quite not very nice. I mean, I do find it very difficult to square what I'm seeing online with what real life is like.
Yeah.
I've backed off it for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to. I think in the end you have to be somewhere out there, or you just invisible in a sense. You're.
I think now more than ever you need to be out there.
One thing that was very important early on, and it probably for you too, was self-awareness. That because I was doing comedy shows and live stuff, you get an instant feedback as to how good you are or bad you are. Did you get that kind of feedback from people when you started?
In voicing?
Yeah. Were people... Because nobody was saying you shouldn't be doing this, is what I'm saying. There was always a positive feedback.
Yeah.
Because I didn't ever think I was that brilliant. You just get what you are told.
Yeah. Your
feedback from an audience or other people. And were you the same, presumably?
Well, yeah, I suppose it's different in voicing as opposed to doing comedy shows and things. I mean, I just maybe took it for granted a little bit that I would just go and do the job and I'd get the work, and I got very lucky at the beginning. I say lucky. Even then, I think there's a slight imposter syndrome where because it does come naturally, I find being in a studio and voicing. Yeah, it's almost that feeling of, oh gosh,
someone's going to find
me. And can I really do this?
Yeah.
But so I've never sort of wavered with the confidence of that. I mean, you have auditions where you've gone wrong or you haven't got it, and then you think, oh gosh, what did I do wrong? But then I think it might have been you that helped me learn that actually when you don't get the job, it's because you weren't the right voice for it. It's not that there was something wrong with how you performed it. I think it was you that told me that a few years ago.
Because I learned
that really helped.
Yes, and very quickly I learned early on, particularly because I did some direction early on as well. If you're producing a show, you're auditioning other actors, you realise that people are employed for all kinds of different reasons.
Yes.
And actors can tear themselves to pieces.
Yes.
Inside, why didn't I get that part? Why didn't I get that part? What did I do wrong? How was And it's not the case. It's simply that they chose someone else, and it's not you.
Yeah.
It isn't personal.
Yeah.
It is a simple thing that they just chose someone else, and you have to live with that. And there's only once or twice in my entire life I think I've actually sort of thought that really should have been my job.
Yeah.
But most of the time you just go, whatever.
Yeah.
The worst thing, do you find this? The worst thing is a recall.
Oh, really?
Because if you audition for something and I forget I've done an audition as soon as I left the room.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes,
or
you move on, yeah.
But if you get a recall, you
have to replicate.
You're reminded and you've got a chance of getting it. And there's a little bit of hope put in there that you didn't have.
Yeah.
You were quite happily swanning about, forgetting about it.
Yes. And then it becomes quite like waiting for that call.
I could have had it. I could have got it.
Yeah. I've had that a few times where it's been down to the wire on a job, and then I've heard the voice and I've thought, oh yeah, they have got really good voice. I get why they went with that voice.
The worst one for me was the Kawada brothers. They auditioned for that 3 times, I think.
Oh,
it went through 3 rounds.
3 rounds. That's
and it was
brutal.
cast, then recast, and then recast. And I was in initially, then I was out, then I was in.
Wow.
And that went on for ages.
Yeah.
It was quite extraordinary.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
3 times. I remember auditioning for, I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I went to the audition and there was a sign on the front door. It was near King's Cross and it said, casting this way on the door. So I went in and behind me this beautiful, tall girl walks in and she says, I'm here for the casting. And the receptionist thought, this is an animation casting, this is voicing, this isn't for modelling. And the model stood there and she went, the girl, and she went, well, can I cast for that anyway? And the receptionist went, no. And how she went, it was so funny. It's a very funny
Maybe we should
moment.
try it the other way around. Maybe I should turn up for a modelling casting.
Do it, yes.
Yeah.
Castings, No, castings they're interesting, aren't they? Because some castings the worst is when a casting goes so well and you come out and they're so complimentary and they're just like, Lizzie, you smashed it, the voice, blah, blah, and and then you don't get the job.
Nothing. I know.
So it's always the ones that go well that you don't get. That confuses me. So now when I've done an audition, I speak to my husband and he'll go, "How did it go?" And I'll go, "It went really well, so I haven't got it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is now that didn't used to happen was MP3 castings is down the line castings, where there's no direction. You don't know whether you've done it right, whether you've done it wrong. And that's a thing. I don't mind doing them. I quite like doing auditions. I quite like doing them. But you don't get any feedback.
No.
And occasionally you do, but very rarely. And mostly it's a brief and you just do the thing. This is what everybody does now.
How many do you send? So if you have a casting...
It depends what they ask.
What if they just want one character, one voice? How many... Because I always have this question of how many variations should I send without it being too many?
Normally 3.
3, yeah, about that same, yeah.
Yeah, they're not... Nobody will sit there and listen to more than that, ever. Almost certainly they'll turn off within the first few seconds.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get a casting at all.
Yeah.
Frankly. 3,000 people per job are applying or whatever.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And it's just scary. The figures are scary.
You haven't mentioned video games, Keith.
Do you do a lot of games? I've done quite a few.
I've done more recently. I have not compared to cartoons. No.
Okay.
No, I haven't done.
That's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to do, isn't it? Because it's one line at a time generally, and some of the games have more characters and some less. Yeah, and you're not in context.
No.
There's no context.
No, you just have a line, don't you?
Yeah, and you're relying entirely on the director, on the producer, or the games guy. Usually they've got the developer or somebody there, haven't they?
Yep.
And they'll say, "Oh, he was this, he was that, he was this."
Yep.
And you have to get some kind of context, or you don't know how you're supposed to be saying anything. And it's line after line after line after line of
Yeah.
And then you have to shout a lot. That's the other thing.
I know.
Games.
Yes, you'll have a line like, "Doctor, we need to go."
Yes.
But, "Doctor, we need to go,"
or "Doctor,
we need to go.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. And your our thought processes about the line are the same. And so I actually have to say, I was at a studio a few weeks ago where they had started putting in the previous line that you can read, and the difference is amazing. Just having the line before it.
Yes.
It's just like changes the whole thing. So
they always ask you to do battle noises and death screams and shouts. So you're kind of going, you can kind of go like this, and so you're going like this for about an hour, and then they're asking you to go.
Oh yeah,
like this.
And there's different levels. This is the thing.
Yes.
So I remember just recently we had death scene labeled death scene, and then they want slow death. So you've got the sort of even doing it now makes me cough.
Yeah.
And then they want more aggressive death, which is more really big, and then straight death, which is just and then and then you do it, and your voice is already, and then they'll say, "Can we get 3 more takes of each one?"
Yeah.
And you do, and by that stage you're like, wait, which death are we on? Mid death, slow death. It's just
and then
surreal.
And then you realise you're doing the wrong character. So
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got to do them all again.
Yeah.
As a child or.
Yeah. And there's so many. And then the battle scenes, and then aggressive.
That.
And then I find them a bit.
I always hiccup.
Do you?
I always get a hiccup.
Yeah, especially when you're dubbing Japanese animation.
Yeah.
Which is really high.
Actually, I really enjoy doing video games. I kind of enjoy the structure of it. I kind of enjoy the accuracy of it.
Really?
Because you often have to get a line in a frame, within a second, a millisecond, to get into the right time frame for them, for their files.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy that accuracy.
Yeah.
Like doing commercials, you have to do it in 30 seconds, and they'll say, "Could you shave half a second off that?"
Yeah.
And the ability to do that in your head is actually, I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
How that could be enjoyable. Personally, I like the more the dialogue.
No, I'm not saying that it's not great.
Yeah.
But you've got to find enjoyment in.
Yes.
In whatever you're doing.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. And every time.
And that's a skill. You see that it's the skill to me.
Yeah.
That is the skill. That's what you're being paid for.
Yeah, exactly. And the experience.
Is that thing.
Yeah.
Of being able to say, could you shave a frame off?
Yeah.
I can shave a frame off.
What about AI?
I hate to bring this topic up, but I'm going to have to, is AI and how much that's affecting us and will affect us. Do you think, has it affected you, or do you think it will? Or?
It has, in the fact that somebody stole my voice online.
Right.
And then put it on a website where you can pay to
Yes, that
have fun
happened
and
to
download.
David Holt.
Yeah, same. It was the same thing, actually.
It was the same one.
Yeah, another voice actor.
Because he got on Channel 4 News about that. I remember he was another one I worked with. He was furious and quite rightly.
Yeah, and our agent emailed the people on our behalf, and then they replied with a, yes, this seems to have caused you some distress. We will take the voice off.
Right.
That was it. Something,
Right.
No apology for stealing it or anything like that.
It's a bit of a Wild West at the moment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Because it's not regulated. That's the problem.
But the EU have come in with a law now, which is, I think, going to start protecting us to an extent. My fear is, though, and probably your fear too, is that there really, almost in the end, is no way of regulating this, really.
Yeah.
Ultimately. It's going to be possible to, I suppose, at source in contracts they can put will not be used for AI or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's one threat,
Yeah.
is using your voice already in existence for other things. But the other threat is they can use AI to produce voices without anybody being involved at all.
Yeah. I know some gaming voice actors who've had decisions to make when they're offered a buyout for their voice, given a nice chunk of money, but then the AI can do they can do whatever they want with the voice. So as a freelancer, you think, it's money, I'll take the money, but
that's it.
But then it's what happens to my voice, and then it's a really difficult.
I find it
thing.
Scary in many levels.
Yeah.
Not simply personally for work. It's generally speaking, what do you believe now?
Yeah.
That you hear anywhere, because if they can do that, then they can do anything.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Richard Nixon speech? That's extraordinary. MIT in the States did a speech. They got a speech that Nixon would have made if the moon landings had failed and they'd died on the moon and they'd stayed there, and it never got used.
Yeah.
But these guys have managed to put together the speech with other bits, all other Richard Nixon speeches.
Oh, wow.
Put it into the mouth of a Richard Nixon film of another speech, and there's no way of telling that he didn't actually make that speech.
You see, now now the floodgates are
it's just...
Yeah. It does make me nervous that it will become the cheap and easy way to create animations and,
We're, to an extent, character actors are slightly immune because being a character and doing acting is different.
Yeah.
It's very hard for a computer to do that, I think, still.
Yeah.
But for straight reads or commercials...
Although you don't have to convey emotion.
Yes. I think it's instantly killing the industry. I think it's a very difficult thing to get rid of. Now it's there.
Yeah. But what do they do? How do we... Yeah, I don't know what the answer is.
Because acting, even voice acting, is very hard to replace with automation.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Because it's just not real.
Yeah.
But they are starting to do it.
Yeah.
They've automated production lines and building work and, all kinds of other things. But we're kind of the last in the line.
Yeah.
And who's going to make any money anymore? It's just going to be people who make tech.
Was it Elon Musk who said no one will have
to work anymore?
To work.
Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
The human race will just be...
Zombified.
What will we do?
Yeah. Oh, happy thoughts.
Could you start wrapping it up?
Is there anything in your head, is there a character in your head that you've got that you haven't used in a series or whatever that you would really dearly love to put out there?
I'd like to do a really high-pitched fairy voice. It sounds really strange. But she'd be really, really high and really annoying, and she'd just spread glitter everywhere. And and she'd just be a little insane, but she had this really, really high voice. And she's just there waiting to come out. But I've never been asked to do something that wildly...
I wonder why.
I can't imagine. I think she wouldn't be irritating at all. She'd be a welcome addition to any cartoon.
Well, a producer is listening, presumably somewhere.
So Glenda, the glittery fairy, is available now. How about you?
Well, I haven't got a glittery fairy
Glenda
in my
inside
head.
you?
No, I don't have that, no. I've used one voice I have used a lot is James Mason. It was because
I learned to do this voice when I was, quite young. And it's such an unusual voice, an unusual accent.
And I've used him on several series now. And I love that. Every time I can possibly get him in, you get him in there.
Yeah, but it's so unique,
Because Professor
isn't it?
Inkling in the Octonauts
is a variation on that.
But don't you feel, it sounds really cliche, just like lucky every time I go to a studio for a job.
Yeah.
I get, when you think how many people audition
Oh,
for
yes.
every single one. It's amazing.
Never take it for granted.
I just
No.
never, every time it's I do feel very lucky.
I just got time to do the credits now.
This has been I Know That Voice, introduced by Keith Wickham. With me, guest Lizzie Waterworth. Recording engineer was Joe Osborne, and the producer was Georgina Sowerby. Executive producers were Ricky Barber and Brian Luff for Bleach Productions.
Not sure about the theme music.